hop on our bikes, we head downtown looking for our next adventure. And the closest I can describe the type of film or cinema that we made back then is it was very similar to a certain stunt-based, prank-themed series named after a donkey, hosted by a certain... Anyways, we just did stupid stuff on camera, maybe with a bit of a Christian twist. And like one time I walked out into the Grove Plaza and just poured a gallon of milk on my head. And we just filmed what people thought of such a spectacle. And another time my roommate put on a full like Easter bunny costume and he threw eggs at people. Not Easter eggs, just chicken eggs. This is the kind of stuff we apparently had time for back then. And yeah, it was silly, it was stupid, but you cannot argue that it was not creative. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I think there's been a bit of a tragedy that's happened with this word in the last decade or so. Maybe you've noticed it, maybe you haven't, where creative has become a noun. Have you sensed this? Have you seen this? Have you heard this? Where people say things like, man, that person, so inspired, such a creative. You should see their work. And it's very seductive. It's very tempting, trust me. I like the idea of being associated with this elite group of raw talent, the real deal, very rare, hard to find creatives. And yet, the problem it creates is if there's such a thing as a creative, then that means the rest of us are what? We're not. We're non-creatives, whatever that means. We weren't artistic enough, we weren't talented enough to make the cut. And I just want to remind you of something this morning. If that is how you think about yourself, if you missed Tuesday and you didn't get to hear Jordan tell you face to face, I want to tell you now, or I want to remind you again, you can't hear it enough, you are creative. You are. And if you have been living with the lie like, I'm just not that much of a creative person, man, I mean, that's the first thing we know about you. In the story of you, that you are creative. Because if you are created in the image of God, if he made you to be like him, we know by definition in that statement, by design, that you are creative. I mean, childhood version of you knew this. They didn't say things like, I'm just not good at crafts. It's like, dude, it's a glue stick, just twist it. We wouldn't say things like, coloring's not really my spiritual gift. We just did it. It was like a part of us. And somehow, somewhere, over time, maybe it was like the careless remark of a teacher. Maybe it was the intentionally mean remark of a fellow student. Maybe someone said something and made you feel insecure, and you took that beautiful part of you that as a child you felt so free to put out into the world. Like you couldn't wait to take that picture and hang it up on the fridge for everyone that walked into your house to see. And you started taking them down and ripping them up and hiding them away. And maybe it has been a long time since you have taken that beautiful part of you out and shown anyone. And today, I hope I can give you the courage to open up and to be vulnerable. Because God didn't just create you to be creative. He has tasked you. He has given you the mission of bringing his beauty and his life and his art into this world. And I want to call you back to that mission. I want to remind you of how it all began. I mean, look at the very first task given to Adam in the Garden of Eden. It wasn't like, hey, can you organize these files for me? He was like, hey, I just made like a bunch of crazy animals. You want to name them? What an invitation to partner with the God who breathes stars to leave our mark in the story of creation. And at first, I just imagine Adam being so inspired and so excited, finding the biggest names with the most syllables like Tyrannosaurus Rex and black crowned squirrel monkey And then as the day went on, as the weeks went on, I was like, cat. It's a cat. That's a dog. This is a blobfish. And I'm done. So I hope you see that from the beginning of the story of human history and from the beginning of your existence, there was a plan for you to partner in this sentiment, this theme in Scripture of on earth as it is in heaven. We are heaven bringers. We are supposed to bring that beauty, that hope, that life, that healing into our world. And one of the main ways that we do it is in partner with our Creator, bringing something out of nothing. Each one of us has ideas and dreams of things that did not exist before you were put on this earth. And the devil is trying to get you to forget those things so fast and to give up on those dreams before they even have a shot. I want to give you a shot today. But let's talk about art for a second. What do you think about when you hear the words Christian art? Let's be honest. Maybe you've had like some rants with your friends in your dorm room. Maybe you've like debated about this in your classrooms. But if we're honest, to some level, probably all of us have words floating around in our heads like, cheesy, maybe shallow at times, derivative. But I didn't ask about modern Christian art. I asked about Christian art. And I want to challenge us to see how that picture changes as we scan back through the ages. Don't just think about Christian art today. Think about Christian art throughout history. Man, like names like Bach and Tolkien and Rembrandt are anything but derivative. Like these are people who literally invented worlds and concepts that they saw beauty that didn't exist and they added it into the history of art. Like looking up at the Sistine Chapel, beholding that beauty, no one would be like, I've seen it before. Cheesy, overdone. No way. I want to remind you that there was a point in human history where for art to be Christian was for it to be at the top of its field, for it to be the best of the best. You know that? Like that's our roots. That's a part of our history as Christians. That at one point Christian art was the epitome of art. And I don't think that those days are over yet. And as you look back through some of the greatest poets and some of the greatest writers and artists throughout generations, throughout the ages, one of the themes that you start to notice is the importance of creative community. A lot of times we think of the artist, the tortured artist, as this isolated individual that has to leave civilization behind in order to find inspiration. Or they're such a creative that they're able to find that inspiration from somewhere deep inside of them. But that's just not how it works. That's not why groups like the Inklings were formed. Have you heard of these guys? This was a writing club back in the day. And these guys would get together and they would share excerpts by reading out loud pieces of their unfinished work to a group, and that group will give them feedback. And this group was full of different scholars and poets, fiction writers, names like C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien. I mean, to think that the very first people that got to explore the worlds of Narnia and Middle-earth were in this writing club, and that the worlds that you know as Narnia and Middle-earth were shaped by the voices in those writing clubs, that's crazy. There's a story I heard. I don't know how true it is, so I'm just going to say it's a story I heard. But I heard a story about a heated conversation between Tolkien and Lewis that happened one time, and how they were complaining that there were no good science fiction or fantasy novels out there. And they got so worked up about it that finally they were like, we gotta do something, man. He's like, yeah, we do. And so they wrote down science fiction on a piece of paper, and they wrote down fantasy on a piece of paper. They stuck them in a hat, and they each drew one, and they agreed that whatever they drew, they would write a book in that genre. And as the story goes, C.S. Lewis pulled out science fiction, and he went on to pen the Space Trilogy, which some of you may have read. And then Tolkien was, of course, left with fantasy and did not just write a book or even several books, but invented an entire world in which we've gotten to enjoy stories like The Hobbit and The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers. What if those two men never met? What would Lewis be without Tolkien? What would Tolkien be without Lewis? Maybe some of the most cherished stories in our day and age wouldn't exist. Some of your favorite movies never would have been made. And I would challenge you that some of your favorite films and some of your favorite songs and your favorite pieces of art out there in the world, they're not just the result of one person having one idea and being really, really good at making it happen, but almost everything that we love out there is the result of a group of people surrounding an individual that had an idea and believing in them and encouraging them and giving them feedback, brainstorming with them, helping them climb over the obstacles that they ran into, and holding them accountable. Because that's the thing about a lot of these ideas. Like, you work at Walmart, here's the only thing your boss cares about. Did you show up when you're supposed to get there? Did you get the things done that you're supposed to get done? Your boss is going to ask you, like, hey, how's that screenplay thing coming along? Have you made any progress on that? That's what I'm talking about. That's what we need. We need people to help us not just remember our creative kingdom calling, but to help us to reopen it and to work on it and to make progress on it. Because there's nothing more embarrassing than being a part of a writing club and showing up week after week and reading the same 2 sentences that you wrote and read last week. Have you guys ever done like a diet or a workout plan by yourself? That was a fun 1 week or 1 day, if we're really honest, right? As we know, as humanity, that the chances of us following through on something dramatically increase when we add just one single other person into the equation who has a similar goal as we do. And the same is true of our creative aspirations as well. Something amazing happens when we get together with other people and we share our idea. And we get together with other people and we read the poem that we wrote. C.S. Lewis describes this experience like this. He says that true friendship is born the moment you say, "You too? I thought I was the only one." And when you start to bring out the creative parts of you, the ideas that you have, the ways that you like to explore art, man, you will find people that are like, that's so crazy. Like, I've wondered about that. I've thought about that. You too? I thought I was the only one. Man, who's someone you could share that idea with? Who's someone that you find yourself naturally dreaming with? Maybe get with them. Schedule on the calendar as a dream meeting and just be like, let's just talk about what doesn't exist and what could be. Is there a group of people that you could get together with and just read things that you guys are writing or working on? The culture of campus life is primed and ready for this kind of creative community that I'm talking about. The Inkling started at Oxford. What could start here at Boise Bible College? I look at even some of the ideas I've had, and they're never just my ideas. They're ideas that have been shaped and encouraged by friends and colleagues. And so who could you talk to? Who in this room could you get together with after chapel, after classes, and be like, hey, I want to tell you this idea I've got. Just hear me out. You never know where that conversation could go. Maybe you end up writing down some things on a slip of paper, and you're like, let's make a pact. You write an album about this one, I'll write a story about that one. There is also, we have a local creative community here in Boise as well called Aspire. It's put on by a screenwriter friend of mine named Chris Burgess. And once a month, we just get together, a bunch of misfit musicians and pastors, actors, writers, filmmakers. It doesn't matter. We all just get together and we talk about the holy act of creation together. Sometimes we'll share different struggles that we're having, and we'll try and help each other overcome. We'll look for connections within different industries, because sometimes you only can go this far down the course of your idea, and you just need someone else to help take you the rest of the way. And if that's something you're interested in being a part of, would love to get you connected with Aspire. It's not like just limited to like a certain age group or a certain type of artist or musician. You're all welcome to be a part of that. It's a free thing. You just show up. There's usually free food as well, which is probably why most of you will be there, but you're still welcome. I have some cards out there that just has some info to get on the email list for that, but you'll get to rub shoulders with like real filmmakers out there in the world and people who are making music on a scale that is way bigger than anything like I'm doing or can imagine. So we bring in and get together with a lot of people, and the only two things we have in common is that we love Jesus and we love art and creativity. And so if that sounds like you, then would encourage you to be a part of that as well. But when we talk about passages like iron sharpens iron, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another, and where two or more gathered in my name, I'm with them also. A lot of times we're just referring to church and youth group, and those things are true. But I would challenge you to think about it in broader terms of it could be a drama club. It could be a pottery class. It could be a writer's guild. It could be a film summit. Man, some of the places my faith has been stretched the most is when I've gotten together with a bunch of other filmmakers who believe in Jesus, and we say, like, we're losing the battle out there, guys. There is a lot of Christian films for Christians, but there's not a lot of Christian films for people who don't know Jesus. So what are we going to do about it? Some of the best conversations I've had has been conversations about that. This is an invitation from God to experience his presence in community and in creativity. Author and songwriter Andrew Peterson describes it like this: people become friends. They experience a sort of living, breathing art. The gospel is proclaimed. Artists are encouraged to keep making, because in making, by the law in which they were made, they're pushing back against the darkness. Community, especially Christ-centered community, nourishes art, and art nourishes community. So how will you create? Maybe more importantly, who will you create with? At the end of your life, if you take up your creative kingdom calling and partner with God and bring a little bit of heaven to earth, you won't just look back on a list of accomplishments, on paintings or musical albums or short films that you did. What you'll look back on is a community of people that you experienced God's presence in as you partnered with them and with him in taking the deepest, most vulnerable parts of yourself and putting them out there in the world as a gift to show others who Jesus is. Not my best ideas have never been my best ideas. They've always been the result of a group of people coming around me. And the same is going to be true of you as well. If you were here on Tuesday, you got to see Dismiss, our latest short film, and you got to watch the credits for that short film. We brought everyone up on stage at the premiere, and I was shocked to see that we had a group of about 70 people on that stage who were all involved in making that film happen. It doesn't even feel honest to say, hey, do you want to see my movie? Because it's not my movie anymore. It's our movie. And I just want to show you, well, maybe we'll listen to it. We will not. Check out Vantage Stories on YouTube. And would love for you to see what we all put together. But let me pray for you guys and we'll wrap up. God, thank you so much just for creating us in your image, just for the incredible honor it is that you invite us into that process, that you're not a control freak, that you're not a micromanager, but you share your creation, your life-bringing, your beauty-bringing, your heaven-bringing with us. And so, God, would there be something in our minds, something in our hearts that you are stirring up even right now? Maybe a long-lost idea that we stopped believing in long ago. Maybe a song that we started writing, but then we got too shy to ever play it out loud and sing the words. God, we need courage right now. We need courage to be vulnerable, to open up, and to find ourselves again the way we were as children. So unashamed, so ready for whatever you had in store for us. So God, wake that child up. And God, would we give them a voice again? Amen.